Bonjour. C'est toujours un petit peu étonnant de venir dans un pays francophone pour parler anglais, mais ma foi, c'est ce qu'on m'a demandé de faire. Mais je voulais vous remercier d'être là en français. Je voulais aussi vous dire que c'était une journée importante ce jeudi pour Cloudbees. Vous le verrez peut-être dans des articles aujourd'hui. On a décidé de refocaliser la société très fortement sur Jenkins, donc de devenir en gros the Enterprise Jenkins Company. Et donc ça aura des conséquences évidemment sur notre business cloud actuel, notamment la partie runtime qu'on va quitter. Donc voilà, je ne suis pas venu ici pour parler de ça, mais voilà, c'est une journée importante aujourd'hui à Paris. Bon, les questions à la fin, on pourra les faire tant en anglais qu'en français. Par contre, je vais devoir faire la présentation en anglais car un certain nombre d'entre vous sont pas francophones. Okay, so I think Kurt talked quite a bit about continuous delivery, what it means, how to get there, what it means to automate things, and so on. So typically, just to put things in perspective, we think that continuous integration, which is really the best known aspect of continuous something, right, came from developers quite a bit of time ago. I think Jenkins is soon going to be 10 years old, right? Continuous integration is really a well-known part of the process. And inherited from that, we have the deployment part and how can you deploy to production, and the full thing would be called continuous delivery. So continuous delivery is really, if you think about it, the union of all of those teams working together to achieve the same goal. And I think what's important when we talk about continuous delivery is not to forget the business. I think too frequently when we talk about continuous delivery, we kind of think DevOps, meaning I have developers, I have ops, and it's good enough to speak about continuous delivery. I think the true success of continuous delivery comes when you add the business to it. So it's almost useless if you're going to do many iterations with a feedback loop to make sure that it works if you do not include business. What you want is this feedback loop to include the business so you can adapt your objectives, you can adapt your targets as you move on. So continuous delivery will obviously mean different things to different people. For the business person, I guess it's a great way to get new features faster. That's always something that they like to hear. For the technical persons, it's obviously a number of changes in the way they do their work and the way they take application, push them to production, and more interestingly, I think, also for the operation people, what does it mean to move from a place where things were relatively static to a place where we were talking about configuration as code, being able to describe what you want your infrastructure to look like so you can dynamically instantiate that environment into production. So when we talk about continuous delivery, the next obvious topic is to speak about automation. Because anytime we speak about doing things more frequently, more aggressively, by small iterations, if you do not automate, well, you have a problem. Because you're simply going to do more things with more friction, right? And more friction, faster, means more heat. So you don't want more heat. You just want for things to smoothly turn faster. You need to remove heat, hence friction. That's called automation. So I took an example of a company you probably know pretty well, which is called HP. So HP is not necessarily known to be the software company, and that's why I think it's a great example. It shows that anybody can be positively impacted by continuous delivery. So they wrote a book, the one on the left. I would encourage you to read it. Obviously, you want to read the Phoenix project first. And so this team was responsible for developing some firmware for a set of printers that were pretty sophisticated. It's kind of the top end of their printers and so on. It's a pretty big piece of code, more than 10 million lines of code. And they were facing a problem, which is costs were just exploding. In just a few years, they more than doubled their cost. And most of the work done by developers was not necessarily making people happy, right? We'll talk about efficiency and so on, but as an engineer, it's also important to look at what you're doing every day, and whether that's interesting or less interesting. We're talking about porting firmware to different devices and things like that. It would take them more than 6 weeks to go through a full testing cycle. And I think the last comment is very important. We see that in many companies, in too many companies, marketing had given up asking for innovation. So they have no hope. It's like, well, don't even ask. You're not going to get anything. So that's how it looked in 2008. So code integration, 10%, detailed planning, 20%. Can you imagine to spend 20% of your team just doing team planning, detailed planning? It must be very, very embarrassing. Porting code, not very, very sexy either. Doing support for specific branches. Manual testing, really the less sexy activity, I bet. And capacity for innovation, about 5%. When you read about 5% in a document, it means pretty much nothing, right? And so they've done fantastic work automating their pipeline, and not just automating it, but really also thinking about the architecture. What could they do to make the architecture more fit to multiple devices? Could they flag it so that they dynamically activate or deactivate feature based on the hardware and so on? It's kind of the cloud, right, if you think about it. You want to have pretty agile deployment targets so that you can instantiate a production environment, a pre-production, a staging environment, the testing environment. They should all share the common DNA, the same DNA. But you want to be able to do that multiple times easily. And so if you look at how this got transformed, well, we're talking about agile planning here, which is much leaner to do. We're talking about doing work on one branch for all devices. Obviously, support for that gets reduced as well, because if you fix it on one branch, you fix it on all branch. The testing is automated, so it takes much less time to do the manual part takes much less time and so on. So you end up with a capacity for innovation that's 8 times bigger. And that, I'm not making this, right? If you read the book, you'll see that it's pretty critical about continuous delivery as well, right? What worked, what didn't work. So it's not just trying to sell continuous delivery. That's really what those guys have experienced as a team. So for example, that's part of their pipeline and how they were doing things. So you can see at the top, that's when code gets contributed. So they have level 1, level 2, down to level 4, and what type of tests they would do. So level 0 is pretty much test on the desktop. Level 1 was integration testing. If anything goes wrong in level 1, we don't even ask you. We revert your code. We remove your changes, right? And then you start doing more sophisticated testing. And the rule is obviously you want easier, cheaper first, and then more complicated, more costly tests down the road. So it's kind of a cascade of tests that you end up doing. So that's pretty common to what we see in a continuous delivery setup. So now if you look at, let's talk about the tool chain. So what do you need to do your job? And it all started, as I said before, with continuous integrations. Developers have really been the big innovators when when it comes to continuous work, and that with continuous delivery, or continuous integration, obviously. And so you end up typically with a continuous integration server, some source repo, artifact repo. That's kind of the base tool chain you're going to end up with. And the idea is that you want to store in that repository all of the artifacts that the developer will need. You know, the configurations, the code, your tests, and so on. And the output of that might be stored in an artifact repository like, say a JFrog. And so as you expand this to build and test and go further, right, you're going to add more features to that tool chain, right? You might need an ops console, some model for your resources based on how you want the infrastructure to look like, and so on. So you're simply going to expand that tool chain with what you need in development. And then you add the operation team. And the operation team needs their own tools, right? They still need to do continuous integration and continuous deployment, but everybody has different needs. You as a developer might care about building, making some static code analysis, maybe doing the start of some tests and so on. The ops team will need to be able to create entirely dynamic environment to do staging or production of their environment on a cloud layer, for example, right? So that's their job. Is it code? Well, not necessarily, right? They're going to have maybe configuration files. It's kind of code, right? Some people call it infrastructure as code. You store your infrastructure, how it should look like in a configuration file. You process it through this configuration, this continuous integration process, and boom, you end up with a target environment. So you prepare operation, you prepare development, and you're able to merge the two and move to the next step. But so I think what's important to recognize here is that you're going to end up with a relatively simple bus, but on top of which a lot of different tools will have to be hooked. And so the ability for this hub, this server, to be highly pluggable is very important. And I think that's one of the obvious reasons why Jenkins has been so successful. It's because it has so many connectors. I've heard about, about 1,000 plugins today. It's because you can pretty much find a plugin for everything with Jenkins. And so it really solves a problem that we face in continuous delivery, which is to create a unified pipeline, a unified build chain that can accept integration with lots of different components. So again, everybody has a different need, right? If you're in development, you will be looking for some specific tools. You're focused on speed, on code quality, and so on. If you're in ops, you're going to care about other aspects like auditing, security, compliance, and so on. But Jenkins is really where you meet. And so if you go top down on maybe a trip on your continuous delivery cycle, you might start with some code changes in Git, some unit tests, some quality analysis, some functional testing, then a release. You might push that to a staging environment, and then you end up in a runtime environment. And so you will go and work with lots of different teams along the way, but you're still going to have a unified orchestration layer, a unified hub that will make sure everything happens in a smooth fashion. So just wanted to say a few words about the Jenkins offering we have at Cloudbees, so the Cloudbees continuous delivery platform. And we tend to represent it with those blocks. So the core, solutions, hybrid infrastructure, and operation at scale. So when it comes to core, what we offer is Jenkins Enterprise. So Jenkins Enterprise is based on Jenkins LTS, which is a stable branch of Jenkins, to which we add specific plugins that enterprise typically rely on. Things like role-based access control. Enterprises will care about that. Clustering, that kind of thing. And then we added, late last year, a component called Jenkins Operations Center. And Jenkins Operations Center is what you need to manage Jenkins deployments at scale. So we see customers with not just a few Jenkins, but dozens, hundreds, and sometimes thousands of machines. You have large organizations with tens of thousands of developers, teams, development teams all start with their own little Jenkins in one corner, a few machines and so on. And in no time, you realize you have hundreds of nodes spread across the company with Jenkins all over the place. How do you make sure that security is applied everywhere? How do you make sure you have the right plugins and you can enforce the right plugin version on those? How can you monitor those? How can you provision more of them? How can you share resources among them, right? You don't want rich team and poor teams just because they were lucky, right? You want to put some resources at the Jenkins Operations Center level so that teams can lease those servers and give them back. So that's the kind of things that Jenkins Operations Center by Cloudbees enables. Then we have infrastructure support, and that's very important to us. We see customers using Jenkins on raw hardware, so just installing this on say, Linux. We have others using virtualization, others using cloud infrastructure, can be public cloud like AWS, or can be a private cloud like OpenStack or vCloud. And so it's important for us, and we're doing a lot of work right now to make sure we can leverage this elasticity, self-service aspect of the cloud so that, for example, you could say, well, I don't want to allocate 20 nodes, 20 machines to Jenkins. I just want to allocate 5. But if I need more, just ask my OpenStack layer to do that for me because I have a peak maybe. So that's the kind of things we're working on. Monitoring, very important. I think we we hear that a lot. You know, as soon as if you just manage 1, 2, or 5 instances, it's fine, right? But as you scale and get more work done, you need to have a complete view on your infrastructure and be able to monitor what happens, what's going wrong, what can you detect. So that's also a set of features we provide. And solutions are specific actions we're doing in specific, you know, I think solution is sometimes a bad word, but things like mobile, right? How do I do mobile properly on Jenkins? How do I do iOS plus Android build? What are the typical best practices in that space? Well, that's the kind of things we're working on. DevOps is kind of odd, right? Because you do DevOps with CI and CD by definition, but some people might want to know, how do I do Chef properly? How do I do Puppet? Kosuke is going to be speaking also about how you can transfer ID from your CI environment to your Chef and Puppet environment to get full traceability, right? That's the kind of things you need to learn. I think one of the problems we see with people using Jenkins is that it's very generic. You can do whatever you want. The problem with generic is that when you start, like, okay, what do I do, right? It's like if I was to give you a big Lego box, and I'm like, okay, do a castle. Okay, well, where do I start? So, you know, it's a good way to give guidance on the best practices. So at the end of the day, what we want to enable are that kind of things. First, you might have in your private data center a set of machines, say 3 machines, and you put Jenkins Enterprise on top. Very static environment, very typical of how it starts. Then you want to unify things, so you're going to add Jenkins Operations Center to have control over those. Next thing you know is you want elasticity, so you set up maybe a private cloud layer into your data center. So instead of your 3 machines, you say, well, for the next 3, I want this to be elastic based on the cloud. And then you might want to start doing bursting out in the public cloud as well. But again, what you want is a unified view on all of those machines. You don't want to have silo of, oh, you are an Amazon team versus, oh, you're a pivotal team in-house. No, you want all of this to be unified through the same console. And then, if you're very lazy, you can rely on Cloudbees that still offers a successful offering, which is Dev at Cloud, a SaaS in the cloud where you can build your code. So really what we're working on is to make sure that you can do continuous delivery at scale and satisfy the need of all of your team, development, operation, QA, and integrate with as many solutions on the market as possible, both from an infrastructure standpoint, how to scale, but also from an ISV standpoint, if you will. How can you integrate with Exhibia Labs, with all of those third-party solutions? So a more technical comment here. So when you move from continuous integration to continuous delivery, you're very much pushed towards doing more workflow, sophisticated pipelines where you want to say, okay, first you do that, then you do that. If this happens, then you need to do that. You know, it can get extremely complicated. And so since Jenkins was born out of CI, there was a relatively limited support for that kind of sophisticated set of workflows. And so today what we see is that people doing this on Jenkins, typically it will require many plugins. You're going to have a lot of jobs definition replicated and so on. So it's not necessarily ideal. And so the Jenkins community has been working on a pretty big feature called Jenkins Workflow. I'm trying to convince KK that he should call Jenkins 2.0 for that, but he doesn't want to leave the 1.x scheme. But to me, it's really a 2.0 jump, right? It's this massive new feature to have sophisticated workflows that can be implemented within Jenkins. And I think if you look at some of the other solutions on the market today, focused solely on that, looking at Jenkins Workflow and what's working now, it's going to be a best-of-breed solution. It's really going to be above and beyond everything that exists on market today. So that's going to be released later this year. The community is working aggressively on this. Jenkins Enterprise will also have some specific features dedicated to workflow, such as a nice visualization, for example. So stay tuned. And so just to conclude, as you move towards continuous delivery, because you will move towards continuous delivery, the market will push you there. You can't afford to be late. You can't afford to implement the wrong solution for the wrong market. Continuous delivery is a way to make sure you remain focused on the right targets. And so if you want to do that, you'll have to change the way you work. It's not just about Jenkins. It's not just about tools. It's a lot about how you're going to organize your team, how you're going to organize your processes. So that's going to be a lot of work, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to end up working almost as virtual teams, as product teams, with business people, with developers, with QA, with ops, DevOps people, and so on, to be successful. And the only way to do that is to do it on the platforms that can host the tool chain of all of those people. If you can't do that, well, your workflow is useless. And so we think Jenkins is the best platform to do that. So now I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Chris Mills. So I've known Chris Mills for quite a while, since we were at JBoss together, working there. And then our paths has split apart. So Chris Mills is CTO EMEA at Pivotal. We've announced a partnership with Pivotal today, actually, where you'll be able to instantiate the Cloudbees product, so Jenkins Enterprise, Jenkins Operations Center, on top of the Pivotal infrastructure, on top of Pivotal network. So I'll let Chris speak about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Sacha. Thank you, Sacha. So I wanted to take 10 minutes of your time just to talk a little bit about what we're doing here at Pivotal and how it relates to continuous delivery. I've got a few slides here. This is what getting into production is like, right? Or used to be like, maybe without CI, without CD. Close your eyes, you push the button, you hope that this is, everything's gonna work, right? Who here feels like this still today? Yeah? Lots of people? No? Nobody? Everybody's doing CD, right? So it's all done. Okay. So it does feel like this. And there's a lot of steps that we have to go through in order to get into this continuous delivery methodology. And it really is, it's about technology, it's about process, it's about the people, it's about that change that Sacha was just talking about. I know that everybody in every department, in every company is on some migration strategy between the top piece of what I've called the old school way of doing things. It's not wrong, it's just a different way of doing things. Through to this fully automated process. And as part of that, all of the benefits of doing things in a fully automated way, we do create some other issues that we have to resolve. And Kurt mentioned this morning, talking about getting your infrastructure as a service, as a set of code. And so when you get into this automated way of delivering your code from your developer right the way through to your productionized environment, you have a lot of testing that needs to get done. You have a lot of other environments that need to be spun up. And so how do you manage that today? People do it in a very manual way. They have scripting, they have some DevOps people, they have some clever ops guys, they have a lot of shell scripts, etc. And they utilize a lot of technology to solve that. But inherently what you end up with is a set of requiring some underlying infrastructure, some tin, something to run on that tin, some virtualization. And then on top of that virtualized layer, on top of your operating system, you've got all the complexities of how you have you have to configure your JVM, what libraries you need in order to run that. And so at Pivotal, we believe that you shouldn't have to worry about managing a lot of what we call the commodities, the core pieces of your technology stack, right? You as a developer should be able to concentrate on writing the code that runs your business. And so one of the core products of the Pivotal stack is Pivotal Cloud Foundry. It's built upon the open source Cloud Foundry offering, and it offers you a platform as a service that allows you to take away the pain of having to manage what container you're running your application in, whether that happens to be a Java app, whether it happens to be a PHP-based application or whatever, plus all of the libraries, the interdependencies, migrating those environments, those containers through these different dev, test, production, etc. And so Pivotal CF is our commercial offering of the open source package. And so it provides you a number of different benefits. First of all, from a developer's point of view, it's very, very simple to deploy something into our platform. It manages your dependencies. It will go and get you all of the libraries and dependencies for you and build you a container that will run your application. So whether that's a web archive, whether it's a Docker file, or a .NET application, you can push that. It will bind to services that you offer in our platform as a service. And one of the things that we've just announced today is the Cloudbees Enterprise Jenkins service that we will offer by the end of this year, so that you have a Jenkins environment that's highly available and hosted inside of your platform as a service capability. From a ecosystem and from an integration point, we have this built-in set of services that we provide. So if you need access to a highly available Cassandra service or Rabbit service, or now a Jenkins Enterprise service, all of these can be hosted inside of this platform as a service. And as you develop your applications, your operations team allow you set up the configurations to these services, and you just bind to them. It's as simple as that. And then the third benefit we have in here is the operational benefit. So as the ops team, you now take away the need to have to set up new VMs or set up and install applications. All of this is managed for you. You apply a level of compute capability to your platform as a service, and we'll manage the rest of it for you. So you get centralized logging capabilities, high availability, auto scaling as you configure it. And then something that's really critical is that we don't believe you understand. Right now you have a lot of infrastructure as a service, whether that's on-premise through something like VMware, or whether you're using public cloud such as Amazon. We want an abstraction layer so that you're not locked into a particular vendor, or today it may be on-premise and tomorrow it may be a hybrid cloud, and in 2 months' time it might be completely public. Having an abstraction layer across all of that infrastructure as a service is something that Pivotal CF gives you. So if we go back to our elasticity requirement that we need when we're pushing through this continuous delivery, all of this environments are now managed for you. So again, as you scale up, as you add more tests, as you add more configurations, you can easily scale out and cater for that load without having to go away and manually do things. All of this is managed for you via the platform as a service. And so we're taking away that developer and operations headache, right? So we'll auto-detect things for you, what platforms you need, what libraries you need. We'll allow you a level of self-service through a web interface. We can do dynamic HTTP routing for you. We can do all of the scaling, etc. We can do the blue-green updates. And then this is the continual cycle that we talk about through your application life cycle until you eventually decide to retire that application, whether it's ever made it to production or not. All of the compute power that's behind that is then released back into the pool for somebody else to use. So as Sacha was saying, you no longer have to make that determination of, I'm having 10 of these and 5 of those right now. You can scale up and down as demand dictates or as your application changes. We've also, this is the announcement that we're making today around our Jenkins Enterprise, is allowing you a one-click setup of a Jenkins service from within Pivotal CF. So if you need a Jenkins service, it's basically a click on this tile and a couple of configuration questions for your operations team, but then it's done. That will deploy a master-slave configuration for you to go away and then start applying jobs to. Alternatively, if you're already using Jenkins in your enterprise, then you have the ability as well to publish directly from there into platform as a service, our platform as a service. One of the things that you get by hosting Jenkins within our platform as a service is a guaranteed environmental similarity, or the same configurations. So we guarantee where we run your tests is exactly the same as where we built your application in the first place. So same versions of every library, because we use what we call the same build packs as to, when we're building those environments or those containers. We also guarantee that you have the same service availability. So if you have a highly available Cassandra service in production, we will take the same configuration for that Cassandra service to set it up for you in test and pre-production. So again, you can make some guarantees that you're not going to hit some difference that's going to stop you. We have integrated authentication via the OAuth stuff. We have offline installs, and as I mentioned, the capability of adding custom Jenkins jobs to do your blue-green deployments, so you've got maximum uptime. So just to summarize, this is a really strategic partnership for us, and we're really looking forward to pulling together everything that Pivotal has to offer, and working alongside the Cloudbees team to deliver what we believe is fundamentally a marriage made in heaven between CD and PaaS, and so I think the future is definitely looking very bright. So with that, I will pause and see whether you have any questions. I think Sacha may come back up wherever he is. Yeah, exactly. So any questions around Pivotal, around PaaS, or?
Chris speaks a wonderful French.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. If you want to know where the railway station is, I can ask. I can't understand the response.